Hello, good afternoon. It's Friday, December 4th. It's 1 o'clock, and Mohammed has stolen my line. So, hello, everyone. This is technically your Star Trek news, not mine. It's yours. I'm Alison Pitt. I'm your host. I'm also the host of Daily Star. Moraine. I'm also the host of Daily Star Trek News, which comes at you not live every weekday, and we talk about Star Trek news and stuff like that in a decidedly more like formal and regimented way. This is the show where I let the reins loose a little bit and talk just a little more generally. Later, we're actually going to talk about Star Trek Discovery too. I try to avoid spoilers in the main show, but not here. So that's fun. Right, before I get started, okay. I need to address something that BC has just raised in the chat. Why isn't this show called Weekly Star Trek Views? Which is a very good question. This show is only weekly. It's because it's a play on words, and if you if you know me, you know I like stupid plays on words. We have so the main show is called Daily Star Trek News. That's the name of the website. Um, and we also have the newsletter, which is the Daily Star Trek newsletter, which is also daily, but it's sort of another like play on words. And so Daily Star Trek Views is like my views, because during in Daily Star Trek News I try to keep my personal views out of the majority of the show. I'm trying to bring you guys as much like information without me just spouting off about what I think. So this show is kind of like my view on the whole thing. So that's why it is, and it's a play on words, and that's it. So yeah. Andrew McCaffrey says, "Is that a Captain Picard Day-T?" Yes, it is. I picked that up at Comic-Con last year. I was very lucky that I got in there early because that like little museum thing has a really cool shop in it. And I knew from the prior year that if you go there and you see something you like, you must buy it immediately because it will be gone and it doesn't get sold anywhere else. I don't know if they sell these now, like officially, but yeah, it was from last year. There's also a question from Hal. He says, are you going to keep doing Daily Star Trek Views even after Discovery finishes season 3? Yeah, I will. In fact, if you look back, there's a playlist on YouTube of Daily Star Trek Views. It's got some of the older shows before Discovery started. I wasn't reviewing Lower Decks, for instance, before Discovery started. There is plenty to talk about. It always amazes me. People say, "Is there enough to talk about Star Trek on a daily basis?" And I'm like, yes, there is. I actually end up cutting it short. You can see I always run long in this show because there's always so much to talk about. So yes, it will continue on even after Discovery finishes, even when there's a long, slow nothing, because we won't have any productions for a while. But yes, it will continue. So what have we got going on today? I have 2 stories that I want to talk about. They were kind of like you couldn't miss them in the news cycle, and I find them to be kind of interesting contrast to one another. That's about Star Trek films that are coming up, or not, as the case may be. And then we'll look at the newest episode of Discovery, which is called The Sanctuary. Spoiler alert, I liked it. So if you don't want to listen to the spoilers, you can just take that's my review. It was good. So yeah, right. Sorry, that was a horrible sound to make on camera. I apologize. Right. So, okay, the 2 stories that I wanted to talk about, and they ended up being sort of my biggest videos of this week, and they also ended up being high traffic ones on the website. There's the 2 stories are Noah Hawley kind of letting it slip that his version of Star Trek 4 is like not happening now, and also that the makers of the Deep Space Nine documentary, What We Left Behind, are kind of working on a spinoff documentary based on the documentary based on the show. So the first of those, I'm actually going to talk a little bit behind the scenes about it because the Noah Hawley story, I really tried to avoid doing it because the Noah Hawley story is nothing different than we've been hearing all summer. So Noah Hawley has been just finishing up the fourth season, I believe, of his show Fargo on the FX network, also on Hulu. And he's been giving promotional interviews for the last few months about the new season of Fargo, which is not a show that I watch, but by all accounts is definitely worth a watch if you enjoy it. Um, Ever since, okay, let me back up. I want to try to figure out how to frame it to make sense to you. Basically, he said that that his version of Star Trek 4, his Star Trek movie is what did he say? He said it's not in his immediate future. And I hate doing stories like this because far from being an actual thing that actually happened, it's like half of a sentence that one person said in a larger conversation. Now, he did say it, and I think that a lot of people perceived it as sort of the full stop at the end of a very long run-on sentence about Star Trek for the next whatever the next film is going to be. The actual quote that he said, he was talking to Deadline about Fargo, and Deadline asked whether Star Trek was still in the cards for him. Hawley replied, "It doesn't appear to be in my immediate future." And that is nothing different than he's been saying all summer. I think it's slightly harder language, but generally speaking, he's been talking about the fact that it's in stasis, it's on hold. We've heard from many different channels that all of the Star Trek films are kind of like not happening right now, and that's primarily due to, I mean, everything. He had momentum earlier in the spring and it got put on hold because of COVID-19 restrictions. They brought in some new leadership at Paramount Pictures, and the whole thing now appears to just be stopping or pausing. There were a couple of different film options that all of which are just not happening right now. So it's a non-story. But I couldn't. It was like 2 days I couldn't go anywhere without seeing this story repeated and repeated and repeated. And um, at that point, when a story like that kind of catches on and is in the public consciousness and is being shared widely among what I consider the Star Trek fandom, especially on social media, I like to do a story on that to clarify from somebody who's looking at it strictly from a Star Trek sort of business production standpoint, exactly what led up to that. And there's nothing really else to say. I mean, Hawley himself, he said it. He said, "You got to get out of the gate to be in the race, if you know what I mean." And that's true in Hollywood. I mean, I haven't been here that long. I'm not a Hollywood insider, but I can tell you that um, Hollywood kind of tends to use this language that's soft. Like if you go to an audition and they say it was a nice audition and we'll be in touch, that means it's a no because they're like trying to be nice or something. I don't know. Maybe it's California. And so all of the soft language that's been going on all summer, it's kind of, things around here don't happen until they happen. So unless you've got like cameras on somebody and you're rolling footage, it's a guess at best. So I don't know. There's not much more to say about that except for in news that surprises no one, that Star Trek 4 isn't going to be happening. And probably the other ones aren't either for the time being. But having said that, like the people that I've seen that are like, "Oh, the film franchise is dead forever." Well, no, it's not, because a new idea will come, the economy will change, somebody will restructure, and it'll be back. I think at this point, it's hard to argue that the Star Trek franchise will ever really go away. It's just not going to. So contrast that with David Zappone gave an interview with his co-producer with Trek Movie on their Shuttlepod podcast earlier. I think it was this week. Must have been this week because I can't see them doing it over Thanksgiving, but I could be wrong. And in that interview, which they were actually talking a little bit about the Voyager documentary, which they started and then kind of got abruptly cut off by COVID-19. They talked about what they're kind of in the creative stages of, which is a spinoff of the Deep Space Nine documentary, What We Left Behind. And it sounds, I mean, I don't know anything about it personally. This is the first I've heard, but it sounds like they've got enough extra footage that they weren't able to use in What We Left Behind, that they are looking at doing something that's more focused on the sort of writer's room season 8 segment of that show. They've got loads of interviews, a long interview with Rene Auberjonois that they didn't use all of. And it just sounds like what they're looking at is producing that footage that they already have into a new format. But like you said, it's in the creative stage and they're working on it, but who knows? The reason I bring that up as a contrast is because we're talking about two very fundamentally different ways of production. Like the Deep Space Nine documentary is independent and crowdfunded, and any kind of potential spinoff, they've actually already got a whole load of footage. Contrast that with Noah Hawley's film Star Trek IV, which was all but greenlit, but they hadn't actually started it yet. So those two things I would consider pretty different. So I think that the DS9 spinoff thing is actually a pretty good horse to bet on. I think that it's likely that they could put that out. I don't know what the format will be. I don't know whether they'll crowdfund that again. I don't know. But I thought it was a really interesting contrast that those two stories happened in the same week, and they're like similar but also very different. I did want to make just a little tiny rant, and I do this. I rant sometimes about Star Trek stuff because I've been looking at it for a long time. The HD remaster of DS9 and Voyager is not going to happen. Just stop. Now, it might happen. It might happen, but not until something really fundamentally changes with the current landscape. And I'm talking if they decide to go to do AI, or God, I don't know, if Avery Brooks decides to come back and do a Deep Space Nine reboot and they make it a new flagship to rival Discovery, maybe. But there are actual technological reasons why doing a remaster of DS9 and Voyager is incredibly difficult. And there's a really good article. I'm going to see if I can find it really quick. It was on treknews.net. And if I can find it really quick. Aha! I look this article up so many times, all the time, as an example. I'm going to pop it in the chat for you guys. And it was an interview with Robert Meyer Burnett, and talks about the technological aspects of what's going on with the footage. The gist of it is that very old Star Trek, so TOS was done on super high def, but then I don't remember. Read the article. The point is that when they did TNG, it was worth doing and it was a pain in the butt worth doing. Enterprise is easy because it was done in the high def format. Deep Space Nine, they would have to recut absolutely everything and redo all of the special effects, and the investment that would require is just not it's just not something that anybody's ever going to agree to. And the reason that I bring this up is because inevitably somebody talking about Ira Stephen Baird did it, David Zapponi did it in this article. They talk about, we're really close to being able to remaster DS9. They're not. Please, if somebody's out there that knows differently, please tell me that I'm wrong. I want, because that's fine, but they're just not. Unless something fundamentally changes with the current Star Trek landscape, People mention it, they drop it in conversation when they wanna drum up interest, when they're trying to raise money for something, or when they just wanna generate social media buzz. It just isn't gonna happen. I need to get a sticker made that says Star Trek Buzzkill. So, yeah, Andrew McCaffrey is right. Yes, TOS was all film, so it was easier to convert to TV, and the format's changed. It there's nothing else I can say about that. Right. Okay, so it's 1:15, and I think probably I ought to get on to Star Trek Discovery, but before I do that, I'm just gonna have a quick swizz down in the chat, because I was not looking at you guys. I was looking at a different screen to make sure that I was quoting Noah Hawley correctly. So, yeah. Paul Wright. Paul, you asked a question. You said, "Why, lol, why is there a time limit?" I don't know what time limit you're asking about, because I don't remember what I was talking about when you said that. So if you could pop that question in again, I would be glad to answer it. Yeah, Andrew is right. I was actually talking to my partner about this earlier today. Nothing is ever really, really dead. I mean, I think my personal feeling is when like a project like Star Trek, for the current iterations that we have on the table, they are probably not going to happen probably ever, because the momentum is kind of gone. But those ideas still exist. They exist somewhere in somebody's system. And there's a likelihood that they can come back. I mean, Star Trek Phase 2 is a really great example of where that just kind of didn't happen, but then we got Star Trek: The Motion Picture, which ended up being wonderful. So who knows? Just wait and see. I that's why I have a hard time getting really excited about things that may or may not happen in the future, because, concentrate on now. Oh, right. Paul's question was about why is there a time limit on daily Star Trek news? I think you mean daily Star Trek views. It's because I'm a very busy woman and I have things to do. Which makes it sound super self-important. But no, the reason, the contract that I made with myself for this show was that it was going to be a half an hour. I can pop in, give a little flavor around what's been going on this week, and then pop back out again, because I was literally in the middle of editing a different video that I do for my other channel. And when I had to stop and kind of prepare for this. So, and then when this is done, I will go back to doing that. I also have children that I should probably be taking care of right now too. So, yeah, so it's a self-imposed time limit. It does raise a good point, though. I wanted to mention, so if any of you guys are like interested in the behind the scenes of how daily Star Trek news gets made, I have another YouTube channel, which doesn't have I don't have very many subscribers, so I don't have like a special URL yet. But if you search for Alison Pitt, you should be able to find me. Actually, I might have a couple. I have a few YouTube channels, but there's one that I posted on my my other Twitter account too. I look at the stats for the show on a monthly basis, and that's the video that I was editing, is looking at stats for October. I'm a little late for October, but that's what I do, and I look at like how many downloads I get and what kind of things that people are interested in, that sort of thing. So you might find that interesting if you are into behind the scenes kind of stuff. Anyway, let us move on to. Oh, I should mention, Paul, you're very, very kind. If you so desire, you actually could listen to me all day, because I am nearing the 400th episode of Daily Star Trek News. That'll happen, I think, on Wednesday of next week will be the 400th episode, which is kind of insane. Because it doesn't feel like I've been doing it for that long, but that's a lot of episodes. So anyway, right, let's talk about Star Trek Discovery. So this is episode 8 of 13. It's called The Sanctuary, and so we are now more than halfway through season 3, which is interesting, because I really don't 100% feel like we're going anywhere just yet, but we're in the middle bit. It's fine. This story was mainly there was one main story, which was the action going on Kwejian, but there was a couple of other sort of sub-stories that were going on as well. I don't know how to characterize it. So where before we were having, like, A plot, B plot, and then, like a like a serialized thread going on. We didn't really have that here. It was really about the action on Kwejian, and then we had these 2 little mysteries, these threads that are going through, a bunch of episodes, and one of those is, um, the sort of, the cause of the burn, the signal, the blah, 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 blah. And the other one is, what the heck is going on with Giorgio? Um And so I really will only talk about those 2 really quickly because, I don't like to speculate too much on what's gonna happen on them in the future. They're designed to be, like, long threads, and we don't know what's gonna happen, so I kinda can't pass judgment on what's going on now. I think it's really interesting how we've suddenly gone from, like, it's like the writers changed their mind. Like, there's what was the cause of the burn? Okay, well, we still don't know the cause yet, but we went very quickly from the burn is this big mysterious thing that happened all across the universe, all at the same time, or the galaxy, all at the same time, to now it's a Federation distress signal. Like that happened in one episode. Which was a little jarring for me, but I'm intrigued to find out what happened. I'm considering starting a thread on, like, the most outlandish theories that you have because, like, last week and I was like I was like, "Yeah, they're gonna make Chili first officer." That was outlandish at the time. The first thing I thought when I was like, "Oh, it's a Federation distress signal," I was like, "It's totally Discovery. It's totally Discovery." Um, because I said the same thing in season 2. I was like, "It's gonna Red Angel's Michael Burnham." And everybody's like, "No, it's not." And I was like, "It is." And then they were like, "Oh, no, it's her mom." And I'm like, "No, it's Michael Burnham." And then I was right. So, um, sorry. I like the stupid theories. I try not to do them because I don't wanna look stupid on the internet, but I do enjoy them. They're fun. And then the Giorgio thing is, I don't really know where we're going with it, but I love Michelle Yeoh so much that I really wanna find out. So about Quejon, that was the main action, and I kind of thought that the entire story was pretty pointless, except it was a vehicle for us, like, to do something while we got some really nice character moments that I think are gonna be necessary for the end of the season. I mean, it was kind of a neat ecological message, kind of. It's kind of a neat, like, standing up to oppression message. Um Fundamentally, I think what we what the action on Quajon did was introduce us in the flesh to Osira. Great. Um, it told us something about Rin, which we were told he was important, but we didn't really know why before. Um, Detmer finally got her groove back, which is wonderful. We got to see Tilly as the first officer, which she does wonderfully. And, we got to see Saru being a captain. Now he's going to get his wrist slapped pretty bad when he gets back to Federation headquarters. But all of the things that were happening in Quajon were really about the characters and about their how they're setting themselves up for what's going to happen later. So, floaty sea locusts. All right. Um, I will say that I love the little poking fun that the writers are doing at Star Trek fandom, with the whole, like, there's one more matter to discuss, and poor Saru trying to figure out, like, what his catchphrase is gonna be. It's hilarious. It's great. It's like one of those classic Star Trek moments of levity. It's an inside joke for Star Trek fans, but something that people actually take seriously. If you look on my website, you'll notice that the newsletter sign-up form says "warp me." Because I think it's so funny when they do that in Lower Decks. it's an important, like, little thing, and I just thought that was just a wonderful moment. Um, so in terms of the actual, plot, I think it was, I I I think it's an inevitability that we were going to meet Osira. I think it was an inevitability that we were going to be in conflict with Osira, whether they were short of dilithium or not. I think, Osira strikes me as the kinda lady that was gonna find an excuse to attack the Federation in some way or another. So I think that was kind of inevitable, but I'm glad we kind of are there now, and we have 5 episodes left. 9, 10, 11, 12, yeah, 5 episodes left to kind of, tie everything up. Um, Also, I love the cat. Rin and the cat were fantastic. I gotta mention, shout out to Noah Averbach Katz, whose name I really struggle with. You didn't see how many takes it took me to do that story on him earlier. Um, I mean, what's funny is up until about a week ago, 2 weeks ago, he was Mary Wiseman's husband. And now he is, like, everywhere, and it's wonderful to see because he's, like, such a nerd and he's so excited to be involved in Star Trek. It must have been torture for the last, like, 6 months holding this key role, knowing that he was this key role in Star Trek and, like, not being able to tell anybody. It must have just driven him crazy because he clearly is absolutely loving being part of Star Trek, and I love it for him. So welcome, Noah, to, the Star Trek family. It's fantastic. Um, I lost my train of thought. Oh, right. I've kind of said all I had to say about the plot. This felt like an episode where we are setting ourselves up for things that are gonna happen in a couple of episodes. The next 2 episodes are a two-parter. It's, Terra Firma ter ter Terra Firma Terra Firma 1 and 2. And so I am interested to see what that's all about. Uh, Kenneth Mitchell's gonna turn up at some point. If you guys remember, um, I don't remember when the story came out. So Kenneth Mitchell is now in a wheelchair full time, and he did an interview earlier this year where he talked about the fact that um, I believe he did manage to. I think he filmed these roles before he was in the wheelchair full time. I'm not sure. Anyway, he is playing a role in the last couple of episodes, and not sorry, not the last couple. I don't know. It was not specific which episodes he would play in, but he is playing a human sometime towards the end of this season. I'm hoping it's the next 2 episodes because it seems like that'd be a really good, a nice two-part episode called Terra Firma. Sounds like a really great, like, so, like, you could have a role in there that you could sink your teeth into, and I think he's wonderful and whatever. So yeah, that's kind of what's coming up. And also, for those of you who are following along with Giorgio or just the larger canon in general, they talk that so they talk about the Kelvin timeline in the preview for the next episode. It's just like it's a very, like, blink and you'll miss it, but you should go and watch it, see if you can point it out. I personally think that it's just gonna be an offhand remark, but very interesting. So go check that out. That's on, they do those videos right at the end of the Ready Room with Will Wheaton. Right. So, I have very, very quickly said, like, every um, okay, I'm gonna go back and see if I can get some of these comments. So, um, Andrew McCaffrey. I love this comment, by the way. I'm going to use it in the future. I'm really enjoying the season so far, but if the burn ends up being named for Burnham, I'll jump out the window. Yeah, you'll notice that I have very conspicuously not complained about Burnham being the center of attention all the time. God, that would I can't see them doing that. I can't see them doing that. That would be insane. Um, um Yeah, Saru looking for his catchphrase was fun. What's funny is, I love it when a writer or a set of writers can do this. They've managed to create suspense out of a moment that is inherently not remotely suspenseful. We are gonna be talking about Saru's search, like, we're gonna be talking about it for at least another episode, and he's gonna come out with one in the heat of the moment that works, and you know that all fans everywhere are gonna be tweeting hashtag whatever it is, um, and that knowledge is, like, exciting to me. They've managed to create this suspense out of nothing, which is it's magical. I'm not a writer, so it's magical to me. Um, and BC, I think you're joking, but yes, Noah Averbach Katz is still married to Mary Wiseman, as far as I know. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, BC, yes, you did see an older uniform in the trailer. That is, it's not a real person wearing it. It's a declassified classified file. And oh, I know I can't really talk about the next episode because we are talking about this episode, but I'm so pleased to see David Cronenberg back. I thought he did a fantastic job. That character and like that kind of the whole look and the moodiness and all of that was really perfect. And I'm so excited to see him back in the next episode. So, right. Okay. It's almost right on time, which never happens. But that's it for me for today. If you've got any last questions, drop them in the chat. Otherwise, drop me an email or something. Say hi on social media. That's fine too. If you like what we're doing here at Daily Star Trek News, just a reminder, like I do a lot of the work here on my own. Like I run the website and I do the social media and everything. But I have help. So Chris writes some of our stories, and Marina Kravchuk, who you may know from being around the fandom, she compiles events for us. So it's I do a lot of the work, but I don't do it alone. And your support through Patreon really helps us out. So if you are not already a Patreon subscriber, then please consider doing that. There's options from like $1 a month, and you can even save on that if you do like a full year. That's if you want to find out more about that, it's at Daily Star Trek. No, it's not. It's at patreon.com/Daily Star Trek News. And also you can help us out just by subscribing to the channel and making sure that you share these videos with your friends. Let's sort of grow the audience, grow the family. And I love it having you guys in the chat and giving me questions and stuff. And I hope you call me out when I'm wrong, because I am not always right. And I like having a little bit of a sounding board for somebody to tell me when I'm wrong. But not about trivia. That's my fear. So I'm going to get trivia wrong one day. Yeah, BC, no executing. There will be no executing today. Anyway, without any other questions, I will say have a nice weekend. I will see you back here on Friday, December 12th, I believe it is. Nope. That'd be the 11th. Friday, December 11th at 1 p.m., same time. And yeah, thank you again for turning up, and thanks for watching. And we'll see you next week. Live long and prosper. Bye.